Most people arguing about Gaza have never heard the date 2005. And that single missing date is why the entire argument you've been having is the wrong one. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza. Not partially. Not reduced its presence. Completely. Every soldier. Every civilian. And this was not a quiet administrative decision. Israeli soldiers dragged Israeli families out of their own homes, screaming on live television. 8,000 people removed by their own army from communities they'd lived in for decades. Some of them barricaded themselves in synagogues. They were carried out. And then they did something that tells you they were serious. They disinterred their own cemeteries. They dug up their dead and took them because they were not planning to come back. Now, they could have burned it. Israel didn't. It left functioning infrastructure standing, including the greenhouses. And these weren't hobby greenhouses. This was a real agricultural export industry that had shipped roughly 50 million flowers a year to Europe. A working business, handed over, keys in the ignition. So Gaza, in 2005, had full self-rule. A Mediterranean coastline, a young population, existing export infrastructure, and access to more international aid per capita than almost any place on Earth. Hold that picture, because it's a picture of a place that could have become Singapore or Dubai or Cyprus. Every ingredient was on the table. Now here is what actually happened, and this is the part your feed skipped. Within 24 hours, the greenhouses were destroyed. Not repurposed. Not nationalized. Smashed, and the copper piping stripped out of the ground and sold for scrap. 24 hours. Synagogues were burned. And within a year, Hamas won an election. Now, understand what Hamas is, because elected makes it sound normal. Hamas's founding charter calls for the destruction of Israel. Not the end of the occupation. The occupation had just ended. The destruction of the state. And this is a movement that publicly honored figures like the woman known as Nadal, celebrated for sending 3 of her sons to die as suicide bombers. That's not a fringe embarrassment they apologized for. That was a poster. Hamas won that election in 2006. It has not held another one since. Not one. Which means every single person in Gaza under the age of 37 has never voted for anything in their entire adult life. There's a word for a group that wins one election and then cancels all the rest, and it isn't resistance. And when Gazans themselves tried to object, when they organized a day of rage, aimed not at Israel, but at Hamas, Hamas sent armed men into the streets and threatened to execute the protesters as collaborators. That's Danny Dannon's account. So the people of Gaza cannot vote and cannot protest. Now, the money. Billions of dollars in aid flowed in. And it went somewhere. It went underground, into a tunnel network that ended up longer than the entire New York City subway system. Sit with the scale of that. Longer than the New York subway. Years of construction. Engineering that would embarrass most European capitals. Financed, ultimately, by international donors who thought they were funding schools and hospitals. And here's the detail that should end the conversation. Civilians aren't allowed in. When the bombs fall, the people who paid for that tunnel network with their entire future cannot get inside. Not one station. It was never for them. It was never a shelter. It was a military asset built under their homes, using their names as the fundraising pitch. So now let's go back to the phrase everyone uses. Open-air prison. The blockade of Gaza came after Hamas took over. Not before. It is a response, not a premise. And on the morning of October 7th, 2023, there was not one Israeli soldier inside Gaza. Not one. There were also 0 in Lebanon and 0 in Syria. The occupation that was supposedly being resisted was, geographically speaking, not present. So when someone tells you October 7th was a desperate act by a caged people, ask them where the cage was on the morning of the 7th. Israeli troops are in those places now, which happened afterward, in the order that events normally happen. Here's the honest summary, and it's uncomfortable for everyone. Israel ran an experiment in 2005. The hypothesis was, the land is the problem. give back the land, and the conflict de-escalates. It withdrew completely, at enormous political and human cost, and it left the greenhouses standing as a gesture of exactly that hope. It got its answer in 24 hours. The greenhouses were the first thing they killed. And everything since has been a footnote to that day.